Keep it on the X. AM 970 WSTX.
All right. We're back. Reflections Thursday. Great, fantastic, outstanding, just plain excellent. Laying the foundation for even better Friday than you ever had. So remember, it all starts with Thursday. And this is a Thursday of giving thanks. All right. There are many ways to give thanks. And, you know, one of the problems about giving thanks sometimes is we have a day when we give thanks. And really, it's every day. We should be giving thanks every day. And I got a special conversation I'm going to have here today about our veterans and giving thanks for our veterans in general, but in particular, a group that made a sacrifice and came back home again to make a sacrifice through their service, okay? And it's not all good, but sometimes the fact that you can recognize where you drop the ball and come back and pick it up and try to make it right, that's important. So we're talking about our veterans, we're talking about our Vietnam veterans in particular, and we're talking about a movie straight out of the Virgin Islands, documentary about our veterans. I've got Joan Keenan here and John Ficou, and we're going to talk about Proudly We Served, Virgin Islands Veterans of the Vietnam War, a documentary on video. All right, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Pleasure to be here.
Hey, good morning, Doug.
All right. Okay, now, I know I got this welcome and this hello real quick and short. I'm going to tell you guys, you're going to do all the talking this morning, okay? So I know it's like, I ain't like Doug here talking. Okay.
We didn't want to interrupt your flow. You had a good flow going there.
Yeah, but, you know, I wish you were here from the very beginning, because coming here, whether I had my coffee or not, once that music starts to play, because that song in particular is very invigorating, hey, I'm on cloud nine and I'm ready to move. I got a positive and we're pushing it out there. And that's why I'm glad to have you here in particular, because recognizing our veterans and their sacrifice is always a positive. Should not be a one day a year thing. Every day. And in particular, Vietnam veterans, we know that they went through some very interesting travails, because not only did they go to Vietnam and die in record numbers, get injured in record numbers, but they came back home to an America that in many ways did not recognize the sacrifice. And it's only now that we're coming full circle that we're realizing, in a sense, it was a disservice to those who gave in service of their country. And so in these stories, and I've had the opportunity to watch some of them told, it's very interesting to see the travails that some of them went through, but one thing that stands out is their love for country and their pride in their service.
Yeah, this project is a tiny part of a movement that's been a long time coming, recognizing these guys in particular. And like you said, coming back, it's nothing like what it is nowadays, and a lot of the guys will tell us that, or have told us that in the stories. It's not like it was, or not like it is now, where there's thank yous and parades and things like that. It was just a bad time. So this is just a small part of what I think the nation is coming to realize, is that these guys in particular, we messed up, and we've got to do it right. So, the 50th anniversary committee was formed, and lots of other things, but we're just happy to be a small part of it. So.
Okay. Well, Joan, I'm looking to you because you were my first point of contact in all this. Tell me a little bit about the genesis of how this came about, because I know this isn't your first documentary with regards to veterans, and so give us a little bit of insight.
Right. I was a teacher at Charles Emmanuel School for 36 years, and just before I retired, I got into doing a few documentaries with the students. We had an extra video camera nobody was using. I hate to see technology go to waste. And so we started a video production team, which was when I hooked up with Jean, got him volunteering with me. And we did one on VI women making history and the traditional games of the Virgin Islands. The students did them. And so after retirement, I started thinking about World War II veterans one day, and that I was not feeling very young that particular day. And I said, wow, the people I know are like 20 years older than me. We better preserve their stories. So it was just a simple thought of preserving the stories of the Virgin Islands men who had been in the World War II. And it sort of snowballed when I hooked up with Dr. Roberta Knowles and Jean and got them involved in it. And it evolved into the documentary, Proudly We Serve Virgin Islands Veterans of World War II. And that was done under the auspices of the American Legion, so it belongs to them. And we produced that. It came out in 2009, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. It started off as Library of Congress was and has been collecting the stories of the World War II vets because they were passing on. So there was a little bit of a push to get their stories recorded, and so Joan started with that, just getting them documented and then, like she said, it snowballed into, hey, these stories are really great, especially coming from our guys here on the islands. Their experiences were way different than guys, in the States, going off to boot camp and off to war. So, yeah, it snowballed into we can tell this in a different way. We can make it a story, so that's what we did.
Yeah, and then when we finished and put it on, several veterans asked me, when are you doing Korea, when are you doing Vietnam? And I said, I'm not touching Vietnam. That war is too controversial, too emotional. I'm not going there. And Harry Daniel was then Director of Veterans Affairs, and he had assisted us when we did the World War II one. And he would periodically, when we'd run into each other, say, hey, Joan, when are you doing Vietnam? And no, I ain't doing that. And
this went on for, 5 years?
Yeah. And almost exactly 2 years ago, at a state whim where they're having Starving Artist Day, it wasn't that day, but one like it, Harry was over from St. Thomas, and I saw him there, and he said, oh, hey, Joan, come on over and sit down for a minute. And from that, he said, it's the 50th commemoration. I'd really like you to. And I said I would think about it. Well, those famous words, because I was sure that Jean and Dr. Knowles would not be available at this time. He now has a little child, she's busy, and, I can get out of it that way. I emailed them both, and within one day I had a response. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, we need to do that. And so here I am, 2 years later, deeply involved and totally on board and realizing how important it is. And like Jean was saying, the welcome home business, that comes up with almost each of the interviews and it still burns them today.
Mm-hmm.
There's still that pain. And so, like he said, this is just a little tidbit of something that we can throw out there and recognize what they've gone through.
Well, we can't stop recognizing them. What happened there? Cases of veterans coming home and people calling them baby killers, spitting on them, all kind of stuff. Hey, the guys volunteered. They got sent to where they got sent to, and people were shooting at them, and they had to shoot back. It was as simple as that. But we also know that in terms of the civil rights era and then into the Vietnam War and everything, there was a lot going on, so that folks wouldn't see it that way. That's for rational thinking people who were upset at that point in time about a lot of different things in our community, and the veterans just happened to be in the line of fire once again.
Yeah, there was a strong anti-war feeling in the States, and I was anti-war myself, but not one of the protesters. But I had left the country to go in Peace Corps, and then came down here, so I had I have to admit, sort of blanked out the Vietnam War, like that was a terrible thing, and and it was when I started in on this, I realized now,
well, I'm going to tell you, I served, but you go ahead.
I was just going to say, and just to be clear that, when we say they got a terrible reaction coming home, that was stateside. When those guys landed in the States, in California and in Oakland, that's where most of that happened. It wasn't here. Coming back to the VI, the welcoming was just immense. I mean, it was awesome. Everybody was happy that they were back,
to see their loved one back.
Happy to see their family. Exactly, great reactions. Or it was unfortunately it was the opposite of just nothing. They just showed up and it was like business as usual. The next day they got up, went to work at their new job, and there was no fanfare at all. But yeah, just to be clear, that a lot of the all of that, the bad stuff.
Yeah,
happened in the
and,
States.
and they didn't have a choice to be exposed to it in a lot of ways, because coming back from Vietnam, you came through California and then all the other places you're coming. In the meantime, when you go out on the street, it was right there, so you had to go through it.
And early on, they didn't warn them not to wear their uniforms, and they had come out of the bush after being in battle and slogging around for 30 days, and then they get to the States and they got clean new uniforms, and they went out, to walk to the airport. Later on, a few years later, they told them, put your civvies on when you go to the airport to go home, so that they would not have those experiences.
Well, I'm going to say it as a general proposition, as someone who served in the military, but for those who are a little bit strange in their mind, is anyone looking for war? Is anyone looking for a fight? To have bullets whizzing by and bombs going off? But when you sign up, if the occasion arises that you have to do your duty, you step up to the plate. And I say that there are a lot of folks that in the military are anti-war, but they're for their country. And if you're going to push us to doing this, we're going to step up for our country. We're not going to back down. We support our country in that sense. But what the problem is sometimes is that we're looking for an appreciation of our lives in the context of, don't willy-nilly get us involved in anything.
Yeah.
Okay, if we get
we
involved,
gotta go. We're the ones that gotta go.
Exactly, exactly. Show me the last president that had a son or daughter in harm's way in a war that they initiated.
Right.
Okay, and you might find some among the Congress folks, but even there, you see things like sometimes folks get the choice type of assignments and so forth, so they never get over there, that type of thing. Even to the last President Bush, there's questions about his service and whether it was cherry-picked so he wouldn't be in harm's way. And these type of things, when veterans see these things, it burns them, and it has a right to burn them, because the fact is life is precious. And when we're willing to sacrifice in so many ways for our country and our families, don't take us lightly. Okay? Now, I'm going to touch on something here. Now that we've had Iraq, Afghanistan, and we've got folks coming back home, one of the things that is burning veterans to no end is that you come back, as we say, mash up, and then you run into all this red tape in the VA. All right? So, but don't want to distract. The real focus here is that when we serve proudly, we served our country, and we expected to make our country proud in every way, and a lot of them made the ultimate sacrifice along those lines. And I saw your pictures on Facebook up there at the wall.
Yes,
in D.C.
That was in July. I got the idea of going up. Well, there's a little controversy over my list of Virgin Islanders who lost their lives in Vietnam, because there's an official list that has 15 names on it. And that has to do with the way the service records people. That's their home of record is St. Croix, or the U.S. Virgin Islands. So there's only 15 on the wall. But as we talked to guys, we heard so-and-so said, yeah, so-and-so lived down the street. He was killed. I went to school with him. He went to California and enlisted. Somebody else went to Puerto Rico and enlisted. Some of them were living in New York. Their families had moved to New York, and they were drafted there. So they're not listed as Virgin Islanders as far as the official list goes. But in doing research in Google newspapers online, the Daily News, I went through and found out all of the clippings of Virgin Islander dies in Vietnam. And I took the names of those. And some of them were stateside who were living here, But basically, they were all attributed as Virgin Islanders who died in Vietnam by our local newspaper. And so I have 24 names on the list. And so I decided to go up. I was going to be in D.C. for something. I got Roland Roebuck volunteered to come over and help me. And we went and we did rubbings of all of those names. And I have them at one point to get it all together to present to the families of those that I can find.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. you know, but I've been to that wall, and it's very moving. And folks, you know, Washington D.C. is the kind of place I tell you that you want to go to, at least have your children go to, and go to all the museums and other state monuments and so forth. But go to the Vietnam Wall. When you see how long that wall is, and you walk along that wall, and you see how relatively small the engravings are, and you see these thousands and thousands of names, the only thing better than that is if they could expand it to have a picture.
Well, have you
Okay.
looked at the Korean War monument?
No.
I hadn't seen when I had been up. I don't know if it had been there or what, but when I had years ago when I saw the Vietnam Wall, I didn't see that. And they have a wall now that is similar in the black granite, but they actually have images on the stone with the, you know, and they also have large monument statues.
I saw the statues, but I didn't stop there.
Yeah, but the wall over there is impressive too, because as you look at it, you can see the men's faces come out of the wall.
All right. Well, you know, when you walk down that wall, it evokes an emotional response.
Right.
These are real people. This isn't a movie. This isn't something that's made up in a special effects studio. This is a solid wall of names going on and on and on. And life is precious, it's important, and if we have to go to war, we're going there and we're going to serve proudly, but don't put us in any war willy-nilly.
We don't want one now, right?
Exactly. Well, you know, having the opportunity to watch a couple of the interviews, it's interesting the breadth of experience in terms of from one extreme where some folks went through relatively unscathed compared to others and the things that they experienced. And I encourage everyone, please come on out and view this movie. And we haven't talked about this movie. Let's talk about this movie. When is this movie being showed and where? Well, it's all right here.
Well, our first showing is going to be on December 1st at the Lionel A. Jackson Readiness Center in Estate Bethlehem on St. Croix. We're going to start on St. Croix, and that's going to be at 2 o'clock.
Okay.
That's just it's not the ideal time, 2 p.m. in the middle of the week, but that's just, you know, what we've got to work with. So the second showing will be December 2nd on St. Thomas at the Leonard B. Francis Readiness Center in Estate Nazareth on St. Thomas, also at 2 p.m. And then on December 3rd will be on St. John. That's going to be at the Weston St. John Village, also at 2 p.m. So December 1st, December 2nd, December 3rd, St. Croix, St. Thomas, St. John.
And then WTJX has asked permission to air it at some time in the future, so it will get on there.
Yeah.
All right, fantastic.
Can we just mention our funders?
Oh, you've got full reign. You go right on ahead and do what you got to do.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people helped us with this. So
Right,
I just finished the credits the other day, and I can attest to the amount of people who
Right,
helped
the
us with
list
this.
of people who
Yeah.
have helped.
Okay,
This is
well,
just a sampling.
At some point in time, you definitely get me a copy of your full listing, because I would like to.
Absolutely.
Okay,
you know,
yeah,
not
we
just
can run
today,
that.
but going forward, I'd like to recognize them for their service in doing
in
this.
helping out.
Okay?
Yeah, 'cause
so
it's-
don't feel that you got to in 2 minutes say all of these names.
No,
no,
I'm
not
just
at
giving
all.
you the
We'll
major.
we'll collaborate on getting the full list out, but
Okay,
you have
just
a few
for
to
the
highlight.
funding purposes, it's
Right.
the VI Office of Veterans Affairs, because Director Patrick Farrell stepped in when Harry Daniel retired, and we've had their full support for the length of this, plus some financial support, plus the Virgin Islands Academic and Cultural Award, which I received, and the Virgin Islands Humanity Council and National Endowment for the Arts. We had a planning grant from them. The VI Port Authority made a donation, and Spartan Concrete LLC. And then we had our locations, the libraries, for VI Libraries, UVI Library, and the Generation Now headquarters, when they were all donated their locations for us to use. But like he was saying, I mean, I could be here all day listing people, so I won't go into that. And then, of course, I'm doing this for American Legion District 10. They're the main sponsor of this. They own the movie when we finish.
Okay, fantastic, fantastic. But definitely get me the full list, because I want to give recognition, and I think it gives me an opportunity also to do it over time in a way that can help to focus on these folks, because the community, our community, with all we've been through with Hovenza closing and this going on and so forth and so on, when I see our folks stepping up to the plate and saying, you know, I'm going to dig into what I have and I'm going to support what you're doing because it's good for the community, I want people to know. I want people to know. It's just like last month was Breast Cancer Awareness Month, which kind of flowed over into November anyhow, and all of the folks that contributed to the events that they had, I make sure that they got their kudos and exposure, because we have to make sure, absolutely sure, that people know that, hey, your neighbor, the store down the road, whoever it was, that they did something in furtherance of this being a reality and service to the community. Yeah.
Yeah, this has been a pretty helpful for us, for me to learn, but for even the vets, some of these guys, they were on the fence about talking to us in the first place, and then, you know, when they did, it was tough to get the stories out of them. But we've heard good things. I mean, Jonah has gotten calls from wives saying, "Thank you for doing this." He's never talked, or even the vets themselves saying, you know, this has been really helpful. But you touched on it for a second. I just want to go back to it really quick. You mentioned that a lot of the guys came back with some problems, and all I can say is that the ones that have just I don't even know how you say it, but just went ahead and did it and went into the VA and got checked out, and you know, there's benefits out there for them. Some are just, you know, they feel like it's a lost cause, and it's not a lost cause.
It's not.
It's not at all. But getting them to understand that and convincing them that it's not. So, which is a huge help when you get other vets who have done it, you know, same age, same generation, saying, get out there and go do it. And we've had a couple examples of that too, where guys have helped each other. You know,
right, one guy signed up. We had Harry send somebody over to the UVI when we were there at the library, because he had never registered and he wanted something, and they sent the information out there for him. So
ad campaigns and pamphlets and stuff, they just don't do it. But you get another vet who was in it with you, going to you and saying, "Come with me. We got to go down here and get checked out." That'll do it. So, so that's been a really good byproduct of this movie, is getting stuff like that to happen.
Oh, and I can't forget the VI National Guard, who's doing the, just one more, they're doing the, helped us for volunteering to do some of the transcript, because to send to the Library of Congress, I need a transcript of each of these interviews, which is a very tedious process. And their group there has volunteered and stepped up and done a lot of them, and then plus helping with the hosting of this event at the National Guard. So.
Fantastic. All right. Well, you know, I'm so glad I was able to have you here today to get the word out. I want you to know that WSTX is a community-minded station. So whatever you need in terms of getting the word out about this venture or similar venture in support of our veterans, WSTX is here.
Thanks.
Okay?
Thank you. Thanks for having us, Doug.
Look for us on Facebook and our website, pwsvi.org, and on Facebook, Proudly We Served. And you'll see all the information that we just talked about, and some clips and photos and all kinds of good stuff.
Fantastic.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thanks a lot.
Okay. Great. All right. Reflections Thursday.